I was hoping we had learned something about politics and voting after this election, but apparently I was wrong. This video series was supposed to be done after the second video. Sadly, just as soon as I was ready to put this subject to rest, the Burning Land sphere completely lost their shit that the end of the world had come because the terrible, horrible, absolutely evil servant of Sauron, Tom Perez, beat the apparently sainted, ordained by God, shits ice cream Keith Ellison, who then turned around and gave his friend Ellison the deputy chair. Literally, most of us Democrats gave zero shits who won. None. The chairman of the DNC isn't that powerful a position in all reality anyway. We had two really good candidates with the exact same backgrounds and exact same views. One just had a little bit more experience in the evil establishment. One just happened to endorse Bernie while the other one didn't. One an evil, dirty prick who wants to destroy the Democratic Party and the end of civilization. There is a new term arising among Democrats called Bernie Land, which are these weird internet bubbles that literally warp reality and make the end of the world out of really inconsequential, stupid shit, or shit that has always been around, but incremental progress is just evil, and their being outraged makes them morally superior, while a literal fascist is destroying the nation around us. I literally had a guy claim that Hillary called Bernie supporters uneducated basement dwellers. When I further prodded where she said that, the real quote was her saying that these were young people who still lived in their parents' house, who felt like they had been given up on by the system and were desperate for things to change. That is dramatically different. One is condescending and insulting and dismissive. The real quote was one of empathy and understanding. Literally, the woman couldn't say anything more clearly that the dystopian lens of Bernie Land won't warp into her sounding like the most horrible, heartless human, and nothing Bernie says or does that they wouldn't have an apologetics argument for. I'm blaming the Russians for helping to generate and propagate Bernie Land, but there's a joke I used to make that if the devil is real and tempting us to sin, he literally has the easiest job in the world the way we're mentally wired. They're being impacted by the cognitive bias called the bandwagon effect, where peer pressure literally changes the way they think, but their memory of it literally goes in the backwards direction where they believe that they actually came up with it for rational reasons, and to prevent cognitive dissonance, they rationalize their reasons for believing as they do. All Russians have to do is to figure out how to get into the internet bubbles and just not go too far too soon as they twist and bend the reality and the truth to generate moral outrage and lose all perspective of the big picture. Bernie is not part of and probably completely oblivious to Bernie Land. He would completely disagree with it. And while I love to hear good things he has to say, I almost cringe when I hear him say something new, because that is going to be used by the people in Bernie Land as fodder to split the party even further over literally nothing. I won't deny there was a troubling issue that the American Jewish Association sent a letter to the DNC voters that a Muslim leader would hurt their ties with Israel. While troubling, it has always been like this, and compromise from a lot of people has to happen until we end the two-party system, or we will keep getting Republicans in, destroying our nation. Yeah, I hate that. I hate a lot of things about special interest groups, and a lot of things about having to be in a big tent party. But this is a party that I agree with pretty much 85% of things, so I have to compromise. And that doesn't mean that there weren't other things for good reasons that swayed the voters to vote for Perez, though like level of experience or just name recognition. According to Mother Jones and many progressive outlets, there is literally no difference between the two candidates, except establishment. If Ellison got elected, he would automatically become establishment. That's how establishment works. I see Bernie supporters claim, the Democratic Party learned nothing. No, you learn nothing about how compromise and the reality of the current system works. It's a crappy system, but we have to work in it to change it and make it better. It's something essential to understand if you want to change that system, and how essential it is that you don't get exactly what you want, to not be so fucking puritanical that you get outraged about issues that, while they should concern you, you can see the bigger picture. Nothing about the world is perfect. Get the fuck over yourself. It's always been like this. How about you use that self-righteous anger to organize and work toward ranked choice voting or some better voting system so we can have more choices and vote more with our consciences, instead of letting the Republicans win by refusing to vote for the lesser of two evils while voting for whichever Democrat gets elected, because I agree with them about 85% of the time as opposed to Republicans, which is maybe 15% of the time, and not spread outrage that demotivates even less informed people than you around you not to even bother voting at all, which really hurts our party down ticket. Learning how to compromise while working on changing the way compromise has to be is called being a grown-up. Or as I'm afraid will happen, these Puritans will split the party because no one is progressive enough if they aren't Bernie, and Trump and his corrupt, horrible people will win again and again. These people are freaking the fuck out that Perez won over Ellison. Gay, trans, free speech, free press, Muslim, immigrant, healthcare, reproductive rights. These laws are being stripped, and they are happening right now because these purists spread whiny posts about how unfair the Democratic Party is so that even less informed friends don't even bother to vote down ticket. I have principles. I just know that we have to work with a very flawed system. Change is slow. The generation is changing is what gives me hope and keeps me working, even if it's not as fast as I'd like, because changing the population's mind takes a long time, and the party is changing and progressing faster than I've ever seen it in my lifetime. Most people don't have that kind of perspective, especially not a historical perspective on just how dirty the party has been for so long. And this was literally the cleanest, most transparent election, hence why I'm working on ranked choice voting while voting for the lesser of two evils so we don't get more Republicans. But because you assholes are so self-righteous Puritans, we now get 100% the exact opposite of what you claim to stand for, as opposed to a slower amount of progress than what you demanded. Thanks a lot, assholes. Republicans win because they put aside their differences. We have to do the same. Steve Shives just showed a comparison between Warren G. Harding and Trump. Harding mostly won because a progressive vote was split between the Democrat and the socialist Eugene Debs. Debs was what got the next generation ready for FDR, but thanks to the two-party system, we continue to have a string of horrible Republican presidents for 12 more years that ran our economy into the greatest depression the nation has ever known. Sounds incredibly and scarily familiar. All thanks to the political purists who refuse to accept the reality or work to change the reality of the two-party system. Mind you, Woodrow Wilson threw Debs in prison, which is macroscopically worse whatever perceived slights Bernie supporters have. A year ago, I was dreaming and looking forward to all the advancements in human progress and society through science and learning. Today, I'm living in literal fear and fighting hopelessness that we will be living under a fascist dictatorship and possible nuclear apocalypse because people who 90% agree with me and my candidate are losing their shit and drawing the line because that 10% they disagree with, allowing a guy they disagree with on pretty much everything to destroy freedom, the economy, the environment, and the world is now happening. Thanks. Or you could get over yourselves. How about you actually listen to what Bernie says and not what your little internet bubbles tell you about how to be a good Puritan progressive?